It's time for Reason.
They understand it's not going to happen right away. They understand, like they did during the FDR times, that you have to do it in a progression. So what do? You overcorrect. You create this movement of fringe socialist ideologues that are very crazy, that are very wild on the fringe. You make them look like crazies, and then you hold up an entire centrist movement, and you end up winning some Democratic seats.
This is the Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
Then I'll get on my knees and pray. We don't get fooled again. Don't get fooled again.
Oh, that's what I'm talking about. Welcome into the Voice of Reason. 1 week away, 7 days and counting until the greatest day of the year. One of the greatest days of the entire year, with Election Day next Tuesday. Welcome into the Voice of Reason, broadcasting live out of the heart of the nation here in Wichita, Kansas, on the Big Talker, 1480 on the AM side, 102.5 on the FM side, KQAM, simulcasting on TV, KGPT TV channel 2610. Great to have you along. Great to be with you today on a hashtag Patriotic Tuesday. And ladies and gentlemen, I have realized something. The light bulb has come on. I have come to terms with something. I have come to an acceptance of something. Let me explain. I realize that I have been a greatest. Andy, what's that? Let me explain. I am a greatest. I have lived my life judging people based on the grades that they receive in school, based on the grades that they receive on a failure in life or a failure in their career. I have judged people based on the grade level that they have succeeded or not succeeded when it comes to school. I think, I have a dream, ladies and gentlemen, that no longer should we grade students based on their achievements and based on their test scores and based on the success or lack thereof in the classroom, because that is gradeism, just like racism or sexism or whatever other isms that we get accused of being as Republicans and conservatives. No longer, ladies and gentlemen, should we use grade levels in school to grade people based on their achievements, based on their smarts, based on how much they studied, based on how their test scores are. No longer should we use grades, because by grading people, you're judging them, and therefore you cannot judge them. Teachers, I have a solution for you in the classroom. While you're in the classroom, you should probably not give them tests anymore. Because, ladies and gentlemen, if I knew this back in the day, I could have gone to school. I could have self-identified as an A student. Oh, yes. I could have self-identified as an A student. Therefore, it doesn't matter if I actually got an A or not. I didn't have to take tests. I wouldn't have to actually study. I wouldn't have to actually do anything. I would not have to worry about a single thing. All I had to do was show up, if I even chose to show up, because, I don't know, I could self-identify as being there, even though I may not have actually been there. I was there in spirit. I could have slept in. I could have not worked. It doesn't matter. I self-identify as an A student. Ladies, how many students do you think are actually going to try this mentality someday in their life? Or have an idea of this, of saying, you know what, I really self-identify as an A student. I self-identify. I'm not a test taker. I'm not that good of a test taker, so therefore I self-identify as a non-test taker. So therefore I don't need to worry about actually taking tests because I'm not very good at it. So therefore the ones that do take tests better than I do, that means that they're going to get better grades than I am, and therefore it's actually very offensive to the fact that they can take a test and I cannot take a test. I really need to be in the nice little safe space that I live in. I need to live in the what was the little closet, the little box that they had in the university where you could go, you could hold on to the stuffed animals, the cry room. There it is. I could go to the cry room, I could hold there, and I could be judged more so on the fact that I could actually cuddle with a fuzzy little bear, and I can feel better about myself because I don't self-identify as a proper test taker. I'm not a very good test taker. So therefore, the fact that you grade me based on how I evaluate myself and based on how I do on these tests is actually kind of offensive. I don't self-identify that way. It's kind of unfortunate that you actually do that. And therefore, the world is really unfair because you try and grade me and judge me based on the grades that I get instead of actual letters of grades, A through F, because that could be very bad. You could be giving me a C when I self-identify as an A student, and therefore it's really unfair, and you don't really see me the way that I see myself and the way that I actually feel inside, deep inside. So instead of actually the A through F grade, here's what we need to have. If you show up, and if you do participate somewhat in the activity, whether it is actually in the study, whether it's actually in the test, whether it's actually just showing up to class and actually, speaking or reading or whatever, then you get a smiley face sticker. And therefore, you get the smiley face sticker because well done. We're very proud of you. You accomplished the goal of the day. Well done. Well done. If you didn't, then you get a half of a smiley face sticker, but don't worry, the other half of it's still there for you to be able to get the end of the day because you did at least participate, hopefully. If not, we'll wait until you come back in order for you to get the other half of the sticker, because some people may feel really uncomfortable and may feel ousted if they only have a half of a smiley face sticker. So we will give it to you. It'll just have to be when you return from whatever else you're doing, because you may self-identify as being there even though you may not actually be there, right? So we're going to do this new program now, and it's called the Smiley Sticker Grade Levels, or the Smiley Sticker Education, to where, if you self-identify as whatever, then that's fine. If you self-identify as not as a test taker, then that's okay. You can sit in the cry room and we'll comfort you. And we got to make sure, by the way, that there are plenty of the mental health psychiatrists there at the school. So whenever you do feel triggered like that and you feel like you shouldn't be able to take a test, then everybody can run there and everybody can diagnose you, and you can have 5 different doctors and therapists and everybody around you and help you and comfort you with the struggles that you may actually have. How many students do you think actually are going to try this at some point in their life? I mean, if we can self-identify as whatever gender we want, we can self-identify as whatever we want to, and then we have to accept it as a society. We have to accept these shenanigan type of loony mentalities, and that's what it is. I mean, don't get me wrong. Some people may feel confused, and we understand that. We're not judging based on that. We are judging, however, the fact that you try to make us actually accept the lack of reality. And people that are very emotionally triggered, we need to invest in maybe the overboard mental health issues when it comes to the fact that people may be emotionally distraught based on the test taking. If you remember some of the colleges now, that the fact that, it was Donald Trump that was in office and they were very distraught during election time. They couldn't take the test. They had to go to their cry room. We have to accept the fact that there are many that have way too much testosterone and that there's too much masculinity in the world. So now we need to have the masculinity confession booths. I mean, this is going to start going to a younger age. And the fact that we have so many complications in college, this is going to happen when it comes to the high school level, when it comes to the middle school level. I don't feel comfortable in my skin. I don't know quite what to do. I feel really uncomfortable because I didn't study for my test last night. I'm not a good test taker. It's really offensive to me that you're actually making me take this test. My dog just was sick last night. I was really distraught over that. I love my dog to death. I really just can't take my test today. I really just can't take it. It's going to happen. I guarantee you it's going to happen. And then we can go on to college and we can continue to the same, because it's already kind of started there, to where you can have this mentality. But ladies and gentlemen, you are a greatest. Just like a sexist, just like a racist, just like a homophobist, I don't know, whatever else that you may be, allegedly, according to the progressives at least, you are a greatest, and there's nothing you can do about it. Just like racism, apparently, it's in your DNA. You can never remove it. You can never get rid of it. You have to accept that. Hi, I'm Andy, and I'm a greatest. Hi, Andy. I am a greatest. You're a greatest. There's nothing you can do about it because you judge people based on their success, based on their outcomes, based on what they do, based on their grade levels, based on their test scores. You judge people like that. You shouldn't be judging anyone, and we should be all happy and hunky-dory, and no one should have a better grade level than anybody else when it comes to grade school. And they're going to try this. That someone will try this. 316-721-8255. It's sad, but it's not too far out there in today's times, unfortunately. There is some new stories about the Wichita school budget that comes out. We'll have a little fun with that. Also, some big news when it comes to the governor's races. They're really starting to throw the mudslinging the last couple of days before the election. It's anticipated. It's not really unexpected. And now that we're starting to see where the lines are going to be drawn with some of the candidates, then it's even getting more heated, which is quite entertaining. We got a lot to cover today, plus Bryan, Frye, Wichita City Council member, will be joining us this morning as well in just a little over an hour at 7:30. But you, my friends, you are a greatest, and you judge your students based on their grades, and that is really offensive, and that's probably not okay for society, because that is unfair to some of those students that just don't do well in school, and they self-identify as an A student, even though they may not be an A student. 316-721-8255. Let's go ahead and start off this morning with a phone call. Shall we? Good morning. What's your name?
My name is Eddie.
Good morning, Eddie. How are you, sir?
Oh, I'm fine. I have two comments.
Are you a
First
greatest?
comment, huh?
Are you a greatest?
Am I a greatest? Well, more than likely my grandchildren think I'm the greatest, but I don't go around saying I'm the greatest. You know, more than likely that little girl of yours saying, "My papa, he's the greatest man."
See, I like that. I like that spin on there.
But,
what you got for us?
Well, there's something called reality. Okay, now I had to go out for one of my jobs. I had to go out and get a Class A driver's license.
Mm-hmm.
And you take a test. I had a plumber come and replace some plumbing for me, and he had to take a plumber's test. Electrician has to take an electrician's test. Okay? First-class radio telephone operators, which I don't even think they have anymore, had to go down and take tests to work on radio equipment. So you might be able to get by with not taking tests in high school, et cetera, like that. But when you get into the real world,
But see, Eddie, it doesn't matter, because I myself could go home tonight and I myself, I'm really tired of the radio thing. I need to change up my career. I now self-identify not as a radio host, but I self-identify as an electrician. And now I'm going to promote my services, and I'm going to advertise myself for people to come and hire me to be their electrician for their home, because there may be a short somewhere. Maybe they're building a new home. I self-identify as an electrician. I'm not a good test taker, so I'm not really going to take the test and get the whole certification thing. I'm not going to worry about that, but I will just become an electrician. I self-identify as one. Therefore, you need to accept the fact that I am now an electrician, and you need to hire me for my services because I am now an electrician, because I self-identify as one.
Okay. Suppose you do that, okay, just like the plumber that came to my house, okay, and did some work, and then 2 days later, a city inspector came along to inspect his work, and he told me that if the plumber did not abide by city code and do it right, then he would have to call the plumber to have the plumber come back and do it right.
Yeah, but see, that would be a plumbist, because he's judgmental against plumbers.
Oh, that's a crazy assumption. But anyway, you're talking about grades, and you're going to have Bryan Frye on.
Yes.
And this police chief we have, I give him a grade of F, okay?
Okay.
Because crime in Wichita has just skyrocketed. We have more murders than we've ever had, and et cetera, like that. And when this new guy came to town a couple of years ago, first of all, I talk to a lot of police officers because I get out sometimes 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, and I love to go to Quick Trips and get my Dr. Pepper and et cetera like that. Do you realize, and I find it very easy to talk to police officers find it very easy to talk to me. Do you realize I have yet to find one police officer that gives this police chief a thumbs up? Seriously.
Interesting.
They don't like, for various reasons. Sometimes they just flat tell me why they don't like the guy. I mean, it's from uniforms to some of his policies and et cetera like that. But what I would like for you to ask Bryan Frye to give this. First of all, I think that we have the finest city council that we've had in many, many years. Bryan Frye, he is just a beautiful person. He's a very, very good man. My city council member, Blue Ball, he's an excellent man also. Why don't they just give this police chief 6 months to turn the crime rate around in Wichita, or else terminate him? Because, I was in sales most of my life, and the deal of it is, if I didn't produce, I was gone. If I didn't increase my sales, I was gone. If I kept months after months after months having negative sales, horribly negative sales, I would be gone. And people that worked for me when I was a supervisor, if their sales didn't increase, they were put on notice. They were going to be gone. So this police chief of ours, he needs to get the crime rate down, or else he's gone. Because you're talking about grades. I give him a grade of F, and he has an opportunity to turn it around. And I just give him to the first of the year.
Very interesting. Well, Eddie, I appreciate that very much. I mean, we'll so we can discuss a little bit about the rating of the police force. I mean, I don't know much about it. We have not talked to the police chief on the air. I think we'd like to try and get him on the air at some point. But I mean, I know right now with the budget debate that we're having at the citywide level, we're talking about expanding the police force a little bit, and that may be one of the reasons, at least from their perspective, why we need to have a larger police force is in order to be able to attack some of this crime that's happening right now with a larger force, because maybe right now they feel that they don't have that size, the proper size of the force in order to do anything. So that's a very interesting concept. We may have to bring that up a little bit and just see. I mean, I don't know. I got nothing against Chief Ramsey. And personally, I don't know anything about him, but at the same time, if we're not seeing any crime drop, if we're not seeing anything get better, then I mean that's a discussion that we definitely have to have. So I appreciate that very much. A discussion I think we do need to have at some point. 22 minutes past the hour. We got a lot to get to today. It's going to be a lot of fun today on a hashtag Patriotic Tuesday. We are going into election week, which is going to be a heck of a lot of fun. This is 1 week away now, 7 days until Election Day. That means, baby, it's time for us to get all ready, be able to look at that I voted sticker, do the last little bit of campaigning. If you are helping out anybody, make some phone calls, knock on some doors, do the campaigning thing, do some grassroots campaigning, and let's get the word out. We've been looking, and I'm going to run through the numbers here either today or tomorrow. There's a huge opportunity, a massive opportunity for us to really change the legislature in a very positive way. Potentially, I've been talking to some of the state legislators, we could potentially be winning and moving the legislature to the right, at least in the House especially, anywhere from 8 to 10 new conservatives that may potentially have the opportunity to bump out moderate Republicans that have voted for the tax increases, that have voted against conservative values, that have voted against cutting spending, that have voted against many things that we've been trying to work on. We could oust some moderate Republicans. We could get in some solid conservatives. We have an opportunity to do that this year. It's whether we actually get the word out and we get them to show up and actually vote and get them into office. That's our duty. That's our goal. And that's what we're going to be focused on for the last week. 316-721-8255. Got some calls on the line. Stay right there. Got to take a break. 24 minutes past the hour on a Monday. I'm sorry, on a Tuesday. It's not a Monday anymore. Thank God. It is a Tuesday right here on The Voice of Reason. Stay tuned.
You're listening to The Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
You know, don't be a greatest, a gradeist, you know, racist or bigot against people that actually don't get good grades at school. Don't do that. You know, that's really bigoted. That's really close-minded of you. Even if they're not self-identified as some type of good test taker as a child. And I'm talking about high school students here, high school, middle school students. I mean, if you're a student, you can self-identify as whatever you want to self-identify as, because you self-identify, and we just have to accept you for that, right? We just need to accept you for whatever you self-identify as. That's what you need to live under. I self-identify as a non-good test taker A student, so therefore I should just get an A no matter what. Got some calls on the line. Stay here. We'll get to you as soon as we come back. Got to take a bottom of the hour break right here. It is a Tuesday morning here on The Voice of Reason. Stay tuned.
You're listening to The Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
Right on! Let's do it! Rock that world! Rock that world!
Give him a call at 721-TALK.
Hey, good morning to you. Welcome into The Voice of Reason. 36 minutes past the hour, waking you up the best way we know how to do so, which is, of course, getting you all fired up about politics or something. Starting off your morning the best way we know how to do so. Better than a cup of coffee, a shot of espresso, even an energy drink. Welcome into the Voice of Reason. It is an honor to have you along today on a hashtag Patriotic Tuesday. 316-721-8255. 316-721-TALK. If you're going to join into the program, Facebook Live is up and rolling as well. Facebook.com/1480KQ AM. Got some calls on the line. Let's go right to them this morning, shall we? Line number one. Good morning. What's your name?
Good morning. This is Deacon.
Deacon, what's happening, sir?
Look up.
Hey, living the dream. Nope.
I self-identify as a 6'2" athletic guy, and we've met. I don't think that fits reality, right?
You know what, though? You self-identify as that, and therefore I just have to accept it.
Right?
Yeah.
But here in the real world, my kids, they see that I'm struggling, financially a lot of times, and they know I'm a garbage man, and it wasn't my ideal career, but you know what? I'm making the best of it. I'm not ashamed of what I do for a living.
Sure.
But I've got a cousin who is a doctor,
mm-hmm.
and she lives in a big house, and she's got all the stuff that my kids would want, and she doesn't struggle. And I tell her, look, when I was younger, I made a lot of bad decisions. I didn't want to study. I didn't want to do well in school. I wanted to go out and hang out with my friends, run around, do drugs, all kinds of stupid things.
Sure.
And she sacrificed. She went to school for, I think it was 13 years after high school.
Sure.
So, and I'm like, if you want the good stuff, then you have to make decisions. Life is about, decisions. You don't get to be free from the consequences of the decisions that you make.
Right. No, you're right. And, I do this tongue in cheek with the whole, greatest and the self-identification of an A student and a non-test taker. I do this tongue in cheek. The problem is, though, is that we've become to almost accept a society almost like that. I mean, if you self-identify as whatever, if you listen to some of those on-the-street interviews with college students and you self-identify as, if it's the transgender thing or if it's, the different skin color thing or whatever it is, you self-identify as something, then they say, you know what, then all the power to you. I'm glad you feel happy. You need to feel comfortable in your skin and do whatever it takes to be able to do that. And we just have to accept it. And at some point, and then at the same side, we start going down the road of, participation trophies and, oh, you know what, you gave it your all, so that's it, and great for you, and here's your ribbon, and everybody gets the same ribbon, and it's going to be all great and hunky-dory. And we've gone down the road to at some point, we're going to wake up with a cold, hard dose of reality that participation trophies and just showing up does not cut it. And you have to actually put the effort into it, and you get back whatever effort that you actually put into it. And that's the way the world actually is. I don't know if you're aware of it or not, Deacon, but the world is a very cold, harsh place, and it will knock you on your rear unless you're actually prepared for it every single day. And that's the reality of it. And you cannot play the victim. You cannot come back and say, well, it just wasn't my cup of tea. I'm just going to go back into my parents' basement sort of thing. You cannot do that.
Oh, no, absolutely. And, the participation trophies, I got a really cool little story for you. Excuse me. My youngest, he's 10 years old right now. And last year he got a participation trophy, a little ribbon with an award on it, and for soccer. And his team didn't win a game. And he says, Dad, I got the same thing as the team who didn't lose a game. And I mean, this really happened. This came from him. And he goes, I said, yeah. I said, that's the way it is. He goes, but I didn't earn it. I said, well, I tell you what, it's your call. Do you want it? He says, yeah, I want it. I want to take it home and shoot it.
Mm-hmm. No, see, well, hey, well done. He's going up the right way. And look, they always say that, if you're young and conservative, you have no heart. If you're old and liberal, then you have no brain, sort of thing. And I get that, the young generation always wants to reinvent the wheel, try something new, and try and start a whole new revolution, try and live a whole different way. The problem is, though, is that usually when you start working and you start going to school and you start realizing that there are 20 other people trying to get the same job you are, and you need that job in order for you to actually make a living, and you're actually trying to further your career or whatever you're doing, that you start realizing very quickly that it's a very cutthroat world, and you have to study, you have to do well in order to be the top, so that way you do gain the attention and you do get the job that you're looking for. If not, then you cannot play the victim in any way, shape, or form, and the world is just that way. And it's sad that I guarantee you there will be somebody at some point in this life that will try saying that I am a greatest and that therefore I self-identify as an A student and you should give me an A because I'm not a good test taker. I have some whatever, and unless you actually give me an A or you stop grading me based on grades, then it's your problem, not mine, because I shouldn't have to accept that.
Well, I'll tell you what, brother, I am a greatest. Because if you don't try, then you don't get by. That's just the way it is.
See, there it is. Deacon, I love it. Appreciate the phone call, my friend. I mean, I do this tongue-in-cheek, but it's so sad. And it's time for us, by the way, to start turning the discussion back onto the progressives. Do you realize, if you remember, that they the only thing that they ever do is call Donald Trump and conservatives as racist and bigots and homophobes and this and that and the other, and they always love calling the names out there. We're Nazis, we're fascists. It's time to start turning it back on them. If they go to school, or if they have kids that go to school, and they want the kids to have good grades, and they are greatest, it's time for us to start turning the discussion back onto them. If they attack Donald Trump and Donald Trump supporters, they are Trumpists. That's all they are. I guarantee, I dare you, go to social media, go to somebody that you know actually attacks Donald Trump left and right every single day because they're left-wing progressive or they're an ever-Trumper or whatever they are. Go there and just call them a Trumpist and see what their response is. I'd love to see a response by somebody, you're a Trumpist. See what they say. I don't know what kind of response you'll get from something like that. Let's go back to the phones here. Line number 2. Good morning. What's your name? Hello.
Yeah, I'm Ronnie.
Yeah, good morning, Ronnie. How are you, sir?
I'm all right.
Good.
You know, we're talking about the people judging these kids and stuff, going to school and everything, right?
Sure.
What I don't understand, what about these people that are running the schools?
It's a good question.
They need to start being able to do their own math, because every time you turn around, we need to raise the bonds.
Sure.
Need new bonds for this school or for this or for that. This is the last one we're going to have in 10 years.
You know, they self-identify as budget experts.
Yeah.
These Wichita school board members, they self-identify as budget experts. They're not in any way, shape, or form, but they self-identify as that, and we've just come to accept the fact that that's what they think they are, so we just kind of let them do their thing. For example, and I'm glad you brought it up, the study, I don't know if you saw the story out of the Wichita Eagle this morning, Wichita school budget would cut taxes slightly, but increase spending in most areas. Now that we just increased spending by massive amounts of money statewide for the educational system, the Wichita school district will be getting a lot more money, close to a draft form right now. They're going to be looking at close to $686 million for their budget for one school year. And even though, by the way, we have close to $100 million sitting in a operational cash reserve that they could actually be spending on, they're holding on to that money. They're getting new money coming in. They have massive amounts of budgets. They're going to be building new elementary schools, from what it sounds like. They're going to be hiring on more teachers and more people, even though that we need to invest in what we already have. They're probably going to raise some type of salaries and benefits for the administration side, but they do say that because of the tax increase that they're getting and the spending revenue that they're coming in with, they're going to lower your property tax marginally. But how long do you really think that that's going to last before they come back in a year or two and they say we need to do it again? Yeah.
That's ridiculous. It's nothing but another bureaucratic lie.
Mm-hmm.
I've lived in Wichita since I came back here and right after high school, and I think 79 or 80.
Mm-hmm.
And all it's been about school board.
Sure.
We need a class for the school board so they can go back to school and learn what they're trying to preach, you know?
Well,
because I think it's a bunch of bureaucratic BS, and here you don't hear about these teachers getting raises. But every time you turn around, you're hearing about these school board members getting a raise.
Oh, sure.
City council getting a raise. What about the people that are out there putting their lives on the line and everything that really need the raises?
Well, amen to that one.
Teachers.
I mean, you're right. I mean, last year when we talked about, what do? We shortened the school year by 2 weeks. We extended the school day by 30 minutes because we couldn't afford to keep the school open for an additional 2 weeks because it was really expensive with all the staff that was there, with all the maintenance, with all the electricity, with all the utility bills. It was way too expensive. We couldn't afford to get the buses out there to go pick up the students. So what do? We shortened the school year by 2 weeks. We extended it by 30 minutes. And then when we got the money to come in, we gave the teachers a 2% salary bump, but then we turned around and gave the superintendent a 6% salary bump with an end of the year bonus because, well, you know, the $250,000, $300,000, whatever it is for the annual salary is not quite enough. We got to give them more, but then we don't have enough money for the teachers. Now we're rolling in with, according to the Wichita Eagle, and I'm sure this is kind of a float number, and it may be a little bit different, but the budget this year is going to be about $43 million higher than what it was last year. So then they say, okay, let's marginally lower your property tax, so that way you can feel like you're actually getting some money back, but we're going to invest and expand as opposed to actually take care of what needs to be taken care of.
That's true.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and you know, and it's not right. It's with all these schools that are going through this crap now, with all these shootings and stuff and everything that's happening.
Sure.
Who's putting their lives on the line out there?
Mm-hmm.
It's them teachers.
Exactly.
It's them teachers that are standing there taking care of those children. Everybody's kids. It ain't black, white, Asian, Mexican. They're there to protect everybody's kids.
Sure.
We need to look at that 100% more and give these teachers what they deserve.
Amen to that one.
Because without them teachers, them kids wouldn't be getting the education that they need, the protection that they need, the meals that they need when they ain't got it at home.
Sure.
We need to 100% turn around and look at these teachers. Just like firefighters, just like police officers. They're out there to serve and protect. That teacher ain't no different than that police officer. They're out there to serve and protect. When those children ain't around you, they're there at that school. Who's taking care of them? Teachers that we hired, that we should be paying 100% better.
Sure. No, I'm all with that one.
That's the end of my conversation. I thank you for letting me be on, but people need to think about that and give these teachers a pat on the back.
I completely agree with that one, my friend. Appreciate the call very much. Great to talk to you. And no, you're absolutely right. Take care of the teachers. Actually, let the teachers get the resources they need in the classroom. Maybe be able to, take care of the resources that they invest their own money in. They get paid, not enough. They get paid. They use that money, turn around, reinvest it into their own classroom because the school can't reimburse them for the tools and the resources and all the goodies that they actually purchase for their classroom. And then we, turn around and give the administration salary bumps, and we expand, and we need AstroTurf for their practice football fields, and we get Olympic-sized swimming pools, and we put nice little coffee shops into the administration buildings for the teachers and administrators because, that's totally going to make the kids a lot better off. It's going to give them a lot better education. It is going to make them really do well on test scores. It's going to really make them do well when it comes to their proficiencies. Yeah, because that's just the way it goes. And then when we try and consider otherwise, and we actually want to put it into the classroom, we're probably the greatest, right? We're probably the greatest, but the greatest isn't. Yeah, we are pretty great because we actually get this. But remember, ladies and gentlemen, the school board that actually appropriates the money and where the money goes, they self-identify as budgetary experts. Take that one to the bank and think about that as we take a break and wrap up hour number one.
This is the Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
Just as a fresh reminder for you, welcome back into the Voice of Reason. 316-721-8255. Just as a fresh reminder, as we talk about the educational system, kind of an important thing when it comes to the educational funding in the state of Kansas, the amount of money going into this. If you remember, we're at record reserves for operational cash reserves, the money the school districts as a whole are sitting on without using while they complain they don't have enough money. Just as a reminder for you, it's been a while since we've gone over this, and as we go into election cycle and you hear the talking points, you hear a lot of candidates talking about we need more money for education. I cannot hold a straight face every time I see the campaign ad from Laura Kelly going into the governor's race for the Democratic primary, and you see the TV ad about her, how we need to reinvest in education because the Brownback spending cuts on education were detrimental to our educational system. As of now, this was as of, what was it, July of last year, August of last year, we are sitting on close to $2.5 billion, with a B, billion dollars on operational cash reserves just for the school districts. Money they're sitting on, they're not touching, they're not spending, they're there for the operations of the school districts, yet no one's actually touching that money. $2.5 billion. It was record number operational cash reserves, and they're coming back to you and saying, you know what, we need more money, we got to reinvest in our children, we're not taking care of our teachers. Broken down by district, by the way, Wichita was number one, USD 259, which went up $6.5 million to $100.5 million operational cash reserves. Shawnee Mission was number two, went up $5.6 million compared to their previous record, USD 512, sitting at $42 million. Olathe, USD 233, was number three with $4.8 million increase to $44.5 million in operational cash reserves. There were some, by the way, that did go down a little bit. Lawrence was number one, where it went down $5.2 million, worth a remainder of $20.2 million in operational cash reserves. Garden City was number four, by the way, for the increase, USD 457, sitting at close to $16.7 million, which was up $2.8 million. Operational cash reserves sitting there, ready to be spent, ready to be invested into the school, whatever they have to do, whether it's security, whether it's the salaries for teachers, whether it's resources in the classroom, no matter whatever it is, sitting there, ready to be spent, not being spent, but you need more money. We just saw another tax increase last year for education. Just a reminder for you, because you hear talking points, and they don't come out and say, I want to raise your taxes for education. What do they say? We need to reinvest in your schools. We need to reinvest. Drive by a school today and tell me how there's no investment in there with how big that school is. They look like university campuses nowadays, don't they? As a high school, as a middle school, massive amounts of money being sunk into that. You need more money. They look like Taj Mahals. They look insane. You have AstroTurf on practice football field. Not even the football field to use for games, but practice football fields. Need more money. Need more money. $2.5 billion over wide across the entire state. Operational cash reserves. Record numbers. Need more money. Don't have enough. We need to sue you, the taxpayer, you, Joe Worker, today, because you need to pay more money into that system to take care of your children. You greatest.
Speak!
It's time for Reason.
They understand it's not going to happen right away. They understand, like they did during the FDR times, that you have to do it in a progression. So what do? You overcorrect. You create this movement of fringe socialist ideologues that are very crazy, that are very wild on the fringe. You make them look like crazies, and then you hold up an entire centrist movement, and you end up winning some Democratic seats.
This is the Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
Then I'll get on my knees and pray. We don't get fooled again. Don't get fooled again.
Hey, that's what I'm talking about. Welcome into the Voice of Reason, hour number 2 of the Voice of Reason, broadcasting live out of the heart of the nation here in Wichita, Kansas. Right here on the Big Talker, 1480 on the AM side, 102.5 on the FM side, KQAM, simulcasting on TV, KGPT TV, channel 2610. Good morning, welcome aboard. It's great to have you along today on a hashtag Patriotic Tuesday, officially 7 days from Election Day. makes it kind of exciting. Coming up in about 20 minutes, Bryan, Frye, Wichita City Council member. He comes in every Tuesday. Looking forward to chatting with him in just a little bit. Also in the 8 o'clock hour, we have, she came in actually a couple of days ago. We have it recorded. We'll be playing. But Julie Burkhart, she's with Medicare, talking about the changes of the Medicare card and some of the fraud going on, some of those issues. So we'll chat with her coming up in just a little bit. But until then, it is open lines to you, 316-721-8255, 316-721-TALK. We have the Facebook Live feed that is up and rolling today at facebook.com/1480KQAM. Please do, by the way, say good morning on there. Just send a little message, like it, share it onto your own page. Let's blast that out. Let's break the Facebook algorithm just a bit because, well, you know, it's social media and hashtag fake news trying to keep us down, man. Then that's just the way it is. There is, if you are not busy today in some way, shape, or form, if you maybe have nothing to do this evening, there is at the, there is, I'm trying to find, it's the Watermark Bookstore, which I've never been there. I've heard it's pretty cool. But at the Watermark Bookstore tonight, there is, get this, oh yes, can we play the liners, please?
It's your Pinko Flaming Commie Corner.
Yeah. So, and nothing against the bookstore. I love the bookstore. But there is a group there that is meeting at the bookstore today, at the Watermark Bookstore, Socialist Reading Group, right here in Wichita. Oh yes. The Socialist Reading Group is going today, hosted by the Wichita Democratic Socialists. Yes, there is that organization here in town. And they are going to talk about, have their discussion openly about democratic socialism right here in the Wichita area. We'll be in the basement at Watermark Books, reading and discussing an article from Jacobin Magazine. Highly encouraged to read the article before the discussion, but not required. Link to the article is below. The Wichita Democratic Socialists are hosting the discussion on democratic socialism. What should socialists do? By Jacobin. That's his jacobinmag.com. Democratic socialism needs to become a mass presence in U.S. society today. The Democratic Socialists of America have 25,000 members. Its growth over the past year has been massive, tripling in size, and no doubt a product of the increasing rejection of a bipartisan neoliberal consensus that has visited severe economic insecurity on the vast majority, particularly among young workers. Young workers. How dare it is economic insecurity by young workers. They are struggling, ladies and gentlemen. They are struggling with the fact that they have a college degree in gender studies and underwater basket weaving. They cannot find a job. It's very insecure for them. They're not able to make it. It's a very tough life for them. It's a very tough life for them. The fight for 15, we got to pay these individuals who are struggling through college, making ridiculous types of degrees, can't find jobs. We got to pay them the right amount. And therefore, we need to turn towards socialism, because that, my friends, is the answer. No socialist organization has been this large in decades. The possibility for transforming American politics is exhilarating, isn't it? And considering how to make such a transformation happen, we might be tempted to usher those ranks of new socialists into existing vehicles for social change, community organizations, trade unions, or electoral campaigns. Organizations more likely to win immediate victories for the workers that are the center of our vision. Why not put our energy and hone our skills where they seem to be needed the most? Workers' needs are incredibly urgent. Shouldn't we drop everything and join in these existing struggles right now? I mean, come on. You do have unions to take care of you. You can leave your job, right? The union will take care of you and protect you. A socialist organization, like the union, being able to take care of you while you fight for socialist changes. And therefore, you totally can't lose your job. Because not only will the union fight for you, but then the government will provide for you as well while you fight for the real change that needs to happen. While it's crucial to be deeply involved in such struggles as socialists, this is reading, by the way, the article here. We also have something unique to offer the working class, harnessing a logic that supports but is different from the ones that organizers for those existing vehicles operate under. Here's a sketch of a practice approach rooted in that vision that we can win support from democratic social change in the short run and a majority for socialist transformation in the long run. Now, let me ask you something. Do you really think the last time that a socialist movement really had any type of traction, really, honestly, was really during the whole FDR time when socialism was a big thing, FDR being a socialist and wanting to implement all these social programs and the safety nets and all the government spending and the bailouts and the Great Deal and everything of that sort. That was when it was really big. Then we realized that was kind of a stupid idea and that was really bad, and we ended up turning away from that. Now it's coming with the new fresh face, and now it's not just socialism, but it's democratic socialism. So we can democratically vote to turn the nation socialist. And now they want the change done in the short run while they have the transformation in the long run, turning this nation into what that is. Fighting for quote-unquote non-reformist reforms is one of their ideas. For socialist theory and practice must be joined at the hip. Socialists work for reforms that weaken the power of the capital and enhance the power of the working people with the aim of winning further demands as they continue about non-reformist reforms. If you live by that, then cool. Here's the thing. If you are a socialist and you believe in socialism and you don't want to work under the evil capitalist system, don't work. Don't work. Don't get any social programs. Don't get any entitlements, but don't work. Because you don't want to work for somebody else that offers you a compensation for the value that you put into your job, do you? I mean, that's just crazy talk. You should just show up and, be like the greatest that we talked about in the first hour. I mean, if you maybe didn't want to put the effort into your work and your studies when you're in school, then you know what, you may self-identify as an A student, but at the same time, you may not be an A student, but you want to self-identify as one. So therefore, no one can tell you otherwise, because then they are a gradeist, like a racist, but a gradeist. Because they are bigoted and close-minded, not understanding that you may be an A student, you just self-identify as one, even though you may not be in real world. So you need to live by the practices that you preach. And wouldn't that be nice? Anybody that actually lives by the practices that they actually preach. If you live under socialism, then what you need to do is you need to work really hard and then give up everything that you have to give it to somebody else that didn't work very hard. That would be socialism. That would be it. You don't deserve what you earned. You may have worked your butt off for it. You may have worked really, really hard to get that, but you don't deserve it. James Thompson here in the Wichita area running for Congress against Ron Estes right now in the primary against Laura Lombard. James Thompson is a socialist. He brought in Bernie Sanders, brought in Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. They came to the rally. They had 4,000 people. It was a big shenanigan thing. They were really excited about it. James Thompson, being a socialist, and we talked about this before, was a success story. He was homeless. He was poor. He said statistically he should be in prison right now for crimes because he was homeless and he was poor. He got his life back on track. He joined the military. Now he's a lawyer. He's a civil rights attorney. He really probably doesn't deserve any of the success that he has now in his life. He really doesn't, does he? I mean, if he's a socialist, then being a civil rights attorney, being a lawyer, he should probably give up his practice and let everybody else run it for him. Every bit of money that he brings in from his legal counsel, he should probably donate to homeless people. I mean, like all of it. He doesn't deserve any. He should be back to that level again, right? Because there are people that live at that level, and that's unfortunate for them. So therefore, James Thompson, he should be living in poverty with everybody else. He should probably be living on food stamps because all the revenue and profits that he generates from his legal services, he should probably donate and give away and give to somebody else. If he has a home, he probably needs to give that up and sell it. And not sell it for profit, because the profit would be a capitalist thing, and he doesn't need that, right? You need to practice what you preach. You need to live by conservatism. You need to live by, well, at least myself, I need to live by conservatism. I preach conservatism on the radio. I talk about conservatism. I advocate for conservatism. I need to live by conservatism. I need to live by advocating for, no, the government doesn't need to take care of me. No, the government doesn't need to take my paycheck. No, the government doesn't need to tell me how to live my life. Why do you think I don't live by an HOA? If someone told me what to do with my lawn, here's what I would do, by the way. and I've mentioned this before, but this is my little pet peeve. If I lived under an HOA in a little community where they had the homeowner says, you have to keep your lawn at exactly 2 inches tall, and the grass can't grow any more than that, and you need to do this and do that. Here's what I would do. This is the redneck coming out in me here. I would put a massive toilet flower pot right in the middle of my lawn because I can. I would have the rusted old mater, remember from Cars, mater? Yeah. I would put a mater right in the middle of my lawn. Why? Because I can. That's what I would do. There's a study that talked about nonconformity, where if you don't conform with the status quo, then you have some sort of mental illness. It's true. Look this up. If you are a nonconformist, then you probably have some form of mental illness. So maybe my nonconformity with an HOA or with the government is a mental illness. Maybe yours is as well. If you believe that the government shouldn't be in your place, and that's the status quo, that's the norm. Everybody believes that the government should be taking care of us. It is just natural and commonsensical, remember, for us to believe that the government should be providing certain things, that socialism's the way to go, reforming the nation to turn it into a democratic socialist nation to where we democratically vote for socialism and socialist policies, that is the norm. And if you do not believe in that, then you are a nonconformist and you therefore have a mental illness. And therefore, because of having a mental illness, you should not be taken seriously in any way, shape, or form. This is what they believe. This is what they fight for. So if you'd like to go, this was just my little PSA announcement of the day. The Socialist Reading Group, hosted by the Wichita Democratic Socialists. Got to put that into perspective. At 6:30 tonight at Watermark Book and Cafe Store on Douglas. You can go and you can read this story about Jacobin Magazine about what should socialists do today. How do you change the status quo? How do you reform the nation to become more socialist? Because they do have, ladies and gentlemen, 25,000 members nationwide, which means that they are growing. They're probably about to take over the Republican Party. They're probably about to take over the Republican. Now, it doesn't matter that we have 1.7 million registered voters in the state of Kansas. 60% of them close to are registered Republicans, which means we probably have close to 1 million registered Republicans in the state of Kansas-ish, just guesstimating, and they had 25,000 nationwide, but they are on the track to start taking over. They are on the track to begin the mass increase of their registration and to be able to overrun the conservative Republican Party. It's coming. We might as well just get on board and accept it, right? 20 minutes past the hour. This is The Voice of Reason. Stay here.
The Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
5 minutes past the hour. Listener on Facebook, by the way, if you want to chime in, 316-721-8255, 316-721-TALK. The Socialist Reading Group here in Wichita, it is happening. Get ready, the Wichita Democratic Socialists. That way you can read about socialism and all the failed policies that it's created. Nonetheless, you can do it democratically and democratically voted it. Let me just say something first off. We don't live in a democracy. We live in a constitutional republic, if you remember. That is the form of government we have. We have a republic where we elect individuals who represent us in a republic, and they're held by constitutional restraints. It is a constitutional republic. If you talk about changing the governmental system to a democratic socialist nation or a socialist democracy or whatever you want to call it, that would be an act of treason, just to let you know, because we don't live in a democracy. We've never lived in a democracy, and to try and change it to a democracy and then do the flavor of socialism within the democracy, that would be an act of treason, just FYI. Bernie Sanders. Now, along with that, listener on Facebook, Google the happiest nation list and notice the majority of the nations are socialist democracies. America's number 14. First off, Google it. Google can be misleading. Hashtag fake news. Be prepared for that. Be a little cautious. Second off, the quote unquote happiest nation list is a little misleading. I've read those stories, and what was it? The Denmark, I believe, was like number 1 on there. It's been a while since I've read that article or read those lists, but they are not the happiest nations. They are the most content nations. meaning that they don't have a whole lot of get going, a whole lot of fire to actually grow and expand and flourish and do well in personal success and personal accomplishment. They're content. Yeah, I got enough. I live with the family. I got to do my thing. We have our government health care and our government education, and I just go about my day and I just do my thing. I'm content. The one uniqueness about the United States is that we're never content. We always have to be growing. If you have a business, you always want your business to be growing and doing better and being bigger. If you are personally ambitious, you always want to be growing. You want your wealth to grow. You want your family to grow. You want to get a bigger house. You want to expand your house. You want to do some modifications on your house. You want to get a bigger car. You want to grow your car. You want to get a better luxurious car. You want to build a bigger safety net. You want to build a bigger retirement fund. You want to go out and do more elegant, elaborate things. We're never content. And to me, that's a good thing. I will never, ever be content. My career in radio always needs to be growing. Someday, some point in my life, I will be a syndicated national radio host. That is my ambition. That is my dream. That is what I want to do. And I will never be content until I reach that. I don't care where I'm syndicated. I don't care what I'm syndicated. That is my goal. And once I become syndicated, I'll be looking at the ratings. I want to be number one. I will one day beat Rush Limbaugh. That will be my goal. I will do that. That is my ambition, and I will never be content. Be like, I'm good enough. I'm just going to coast now. Americans don't do that. From the beginning of the American society, we've always grown. We've always expanded. We've always wanted to, because we are Americans. We are the hard, nitty-gritty, to the bone, work ourselves to death society, to where we're going to succeed, we're going to flourish, we are going to make sure that we do things ourselves, because if we don't do it ourselves, it ain't going to get done. The government's not going to hold my hand and take care of me. The government's not going to do everything for me. We're going to do it ourselves. We're going to always succeed. We're always going to move forward. That list of the happiest nations in the world, they are not the happiest nations. They are the most content nations. There is a difference between content and happiness. There's a big difference there. And by the way, they have to be content, and they're told to be content, because a socialist democracy or a democratic socialist nation, however you want to put it, means that you're not going to be able to move up or down a whole lot in society. You're just kind of stuck. Once you get to that level, that's about it. Socialism with the high tax and with a 60-70% tax rate, you're not going to be able to succeed a whole lot more in society. You're not going to grow your business a whole lot more. Name a business or a corporation, an international corporation, that's grown exponentially out of a socialist nation to where they are allowed to keep their own profits and expand and invest in their business to make it grow. It doesn't happen. It doesn't happen. The businesses and corporations internationally that are growing and flourishing and doing very well are coming from capitalist nations where they can keep their own money in their own pockets. The evil rich people that reinvest in their business to hire more people, build new manufacturing plants, start new trade deals, that's who grows. There's a difference between content and happiness. And by the way, don't trust everything on Google.
Haven't let your light shine down. Haven't let your light shine down.
It's time for Reason.
But conservatism, that is not dead. Actually, we're going back to that, and we're doing that in very large steps. We are repealing government mandates. We're repealing big government regulations. We're getting the economy going again. We're focusing on the private sector. We're doing some really great things that lead to what the Tea Party's been fighting for a really long time.
The Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
You know what's really comical about that is the fact that the socialist side, they're all up in arms and really excited about they have 25,000 members nationwide for the Democratic Socialists. I applaud them. Well done. We're going in the other direction, which is why Donald Trump is president right now, which is why 3/4 of the state legislatures and governorships across the nation are Republican, and I don't see that changing anytime soon. They keep talking about this blue wave. I'm waiting for that to happen. We'll have to see what happens with the primaries coming up in a week from today, at least here in the state of Kansas, and what kind of candidates the Democrats choose to have. Welcome back in. 316-721-8255, 316-721-TALK. By the way, speaking speaking of the Riverside Cafe Liner, the sponsor here on KQAM, I had Riverside Cafe yesterday, and I've been teasing about having the 3-pound burger. I keep wanting to try the 3-pound burger. I thought I'd start a little bit lighter yesterday. I went for the 1.5-pound burger, which is their small one. 1.5 pound, 3 half-pound patties with bacon, 3 layers of the bacon on there as well. I barely finished it. I did, but I barely finished it.
And you couldn't move for how long afterwards?
I did go into a bit of a food coma, and my tummy hurt the rest of the afternoon. But it was so good, I could not stop. So now that I'm working my way up, now I have to expand a little bit, and I have to work on the 3-pound burger coming up. So anyways, it is that time. We do it every single week with our city council member. Wichita City Council member Mr. Bryan Frye back in studio with us. Good morning. Have you tried the 3-pound burger?
No, I don't think I could do that to myself.
See, I see it and I just get all excited, which is why, I probably need to get out. I was doing so well, too. I've been on a diet for the last week and I've lost like 4 pounds and I was all happy. And then I do that. And, that's okay, though, because I thoroughly enjoyed it. It was probably one of the greatest burgers I've had in a really long time.
That's awesome that you can do that. But
good stuff.
That would put me in a food coma.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, good stuff indeed. Anyways, how have you been, sir?
I've been great. This is summertime, so you get a little bit of vacation with the kids this last weekend. And just kind of relaxing. We don't have a council meeting today, so I'm a little more casual than I normally would be.
Sure. I was going to say, no Wichita flag jacket, today. Yeah.
Wichita flag T-shirt, but
there you go.
No jacket. No, today I traded in the council chair for a lounge chair this morning.
Hey, that's a good day right there.
But I do have meetings all day later, so
sure. Last week was a big one, and we talked quite a bit about it. So with the previous week before that, and last week when it came to some of the budgetary debates that are going to continue to be ongoing for a while. But how did that go last week?
So we continue to work as a council on finding ways to alleviate some of these drastic cuts that the manager had put in the budget. Mm-hmm. We're hearing a lot from people that are unhappy with some of the proposed cuts, and we get that. There were proposed cuts to a couple of library branches, city arts, some other services, and so we've been able to find a way to shift the budget around to avoid that. With the understanding that the big challenge with this is we have to figure out a better way of operating these systems. Sure. And so we're going to hold off this year on making some of those drastic cuts. But again, the whole next year and a half is going to be spent on how can we operate these more efficiently? How can we find some other savings or some other revenue streams to help offset some of these big losses?
Sure.
Because that's what the people have been saying, and that's what they want. And fine, we're going to make that work. We're not always going to. You can't cut yourself to prosperity, and it's not going to do that alone. Is not going to get us there. We've got to have to find some better ways of doing things and be more efficient and reduce government. But at the same time, we've got to grow this economy. That's the biggest challenge we have, is continuing to grow Wichita. And that helps a lot of things.
Sure. Growing the economy is, obviously, as you mentioned, one of the biggest things that we can do. Now, this budget, as you mentioned, we're expanding some areas, trying to consolidate some areas, looking for different ways for different revenue potentials for the city. Because, you brought up some really interesting points last week that, I hadn't really thought of when it comes to revenue for the city. People with phone lines or landlines in their home. I don't know how many people actually do that anymore. We just have our cell phones,
right.
My wife and I. We don't even use landlines, that sort of thing. That's little things like that, but it's stuff that, times are changing.
Right.
And we've mentioned that before. Times are changing, and not only do we adapt as consumers, but the public sector needs to adapt as well to make it more efficient.
Right, and this isn't something that we've realized overnight. This has been building over time. This part of the revenue stream used to be a lot bigger than what it was, and we have taken that into account. It's still 12-14% of our revenue stream, but that's pretty significant.
Sure.
When you look at our entire budget, operating budget of about $260 million, 14% is a pretty good number, but it's not something that hit us overnight. We have been planning for it, but it's, again, those things that have been declining, and we don't have a lot of other revenue streams, and so we still have to grow the economy. That's the number one thing we can do. That benefits sales tax. That benefits more landlines. That does create more cable TV subscribers when you have more people living here. So that's the single best thing we can do. A lot of folks have been telling us, we've been getting a vocal minority that have been saying, hey, just raise taxes, just raise taxes. That fixes a lot of things.
We don't like to do that.
No,
we don't like to do that.
You still have to have a business environment that people want to live in, that they want to operate their companies here.
Sure.
And you get that way by having low taxes.
Exactly.
And that's the base I believe in. So
sure. Well, and it's true. I mean, government's supposed to grow, in ratio with the economy growing. If the government grows too big, when the private sector's not growing, then we have a problem, because then it's not, as you mentioned, business friendly, because we have too big a government imposing too much, and kind of squeezing the private sector too much. It's got to grow in comparison with the private economy. And when the private economy is not growing, that's the struggle that you guys have been going through for a while.
Right. I mean, it's slow growth. I mean, we do have positive growth, but it's not keeping pace with the rest of
what
the
we'd
economy.
Like to see.
Right. And so
what we'd like to see.
The rising cost of healthcare and salaries and et cetera, et cetera. I mean, this budget, we are adding 32 more police department employees. 20 of those are officers. The other 12 are non-commissioned, but again, support staff to help with crime rate and reduction of that. We are adding another $1 million to ongoing street maintenance. We're increasing that from $8 million a year to $9 million a year. Again, that's on top of the $10 million that we just put into roads from the Hyatt sale.
Sure.
So we are making progress on our streets and our roads. Part of the challenge is it's been avoided for so long, right? And we've been behind, and so we're trying to get caught up.
Sure.
But so those are two areas that we are increasing, right? But there are some other things that we're having to adjust, and we're going to figure that out. And I think we've got a good plan. We still want to hear from folks. So next week, the manager will present the updated budget based on some of the feedback that we've given him as a council. And then we'll have public input, and then we have to adopt a budget by the 14th. Okay. So the next 2 weeks, there's still opportunity to weigh in and come up with other ideas in other areas. So.
Sure. Absolutely. The police force, we had a caller earlier this morning that talked a little bit about the crime rate in the area. And, I know that we've had a little bit of an increase when it comes to homicides in the area. Now, I don't know what the reasoning is for that, whether it's just because of an environment where crime is a little more on the up and up, or whether it's some may blame because more guns are in the area. I don't think that's the case. But why do we think, and I know that we've advocated obviously for more officers to try and put some of that out. Is it because we have a lack of law enforcement? Is it because there's a societal issue? I mean, what's your take on why we think we're seeing crime rates right now?
Well, I think one of the things that Chief Ramsey will tell you is he's a data hog. I mean, he loves looking at data and trying to figure out where the trends are occurring and what's going on. We haven't had that until recently, being able to have those deep dives into trends and what's going on, and that's something he advocated for very strongly. So he is building that data and trying to figure it out. Another thing that's been challenged is we haven't had enough police officers and staff. I mean, we've done a couple of different studies, and it says that we're 72 officers short of where we should be for a city this size. That doesn't allow them to be proactive in getting out into the community and figuring out how to stop crime before it happens. They've just been reactive, and they're just going from call to call to call. And so, therefore, they're not been able to visit with homeowners or property owners and business operators to figure out what they're seeing, what they can do to stop some of this before it ever happens. Being very proactive, being that community police officer, being out, being visible, being present,
sure,
is a big deterrent.
Sure.
And so having enough officers that they can do that is one of the goals that Chief Ramsey has had since he's been here. And we're just now able to get to that where we can support it. And again, he's going to do deep dives and figuring out where this is going and how it's working, if it is. But that's part of the challenge. Mm-hmm. We typically do see an increase during the summertime. I mean, that's just stands to reason. It's always been traditionally that way.
Sure.
But what else is compounding that? I could answer that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if anybody really can, other than just kind of watching it and seeing what we can do for the communities to try and hold the community accountable within ourselves, not just with law enforcement, but with ourselves as well, with the the next door neighbor and your friends, and
right.
just the fact that we just kind of keep an eye on our own streets and kind of try and keep ourselves safe.
Yeah, I mean, personal accountability and personal responsibility is something that I grew up with, and I don't see it as much these days. It feels like, and that goes back to how we were raised,
mm-hmm.
And keeping that. I'd like to see more of it, but I can't point to why that is. I can't point to a statistic or some stat that says that's why it is or what's going on. It just feels that way.
Sure. No, absolutely. Talk about the budget a little bit. I know the county, we've talked with the county side of it as well, and the county has, they've kind of capped the debt that they're allowed to be in. They've started paying some of that stuff off. Where are we at on that side of the budget with the city as well when it comes to debt and paying off debts and trying to keep on top of that side?
So, we have not raised our property mill for 25 years. We've kept that steady. A big part of our debt is special assessments. It's not our debt, but it's the developers that have took on projects, residential areas, and we have bonded their debt. So, I mean, we have a savings, our nest egg savings of about 32 million, which is very strong. It's what it needs to be. We don't look at debt lightly either. We still have more than I'd like. I can't put the exact number on it right now.
Sure.
But we are very cautious, very conservative when it comes to taking on new debt. We have a benchmark that we have set for ourselves on how much debt limit we take each year.
Okay.
And we purposely keep it below that every year. We don't get above that number, which again speaks to the conservative nature of this council and the finance staff and the city manager.
Sure.
So we are not pushing the envelope. There have been people that said, hey, you can go above your benchmark because you still have a lot of capacity.
Sure.
And we don't. We are well below that every year. I think the capital improvement budget for 2022 shows it getting very near that benchmark level, still below what we're required to keep our bond rating. But we're not getting near that. It's just too conservative of this council to do that.
Sure.
So,
well, and that's a good thing. I mean, the fact that we're trying to keep that low is kind of an important aspect. Right. I mean, we don't want to get too far out of debt and then have to worry about what we're going to do with, being able to pay off our debt sort of thing.
But again, a large part of our debt is not our debt. It's the special assessments that we allow for developers to do projects, and then we bond it so then it comes back by your specials that you pay in your development. So it's not a true debt of the city. Right. But that makes that picture look more inflated than what it is.
Exactly. Well, good. You said no meeting today, so everybody can kind of hold off for a week, get ready for that discussion again. But it's going to be happening over the next couple of weeks, so it's going to be kind of a bigger talking point for the next few meetings, correct?
Right. And so, again, we the 7th and the 14th are two critical days because we do, by state ordinance, have to have a budget passed on the 14th.
Okay.
We have been hearing a lot from the folks in the community, and that's great, and we want to continue. I think we've taken the scissors as far as we can to the budget right now. Where else we can go with it, it's going to be difficult. If someone comes to the August 7th meeting with different ideas, we still have time to, review and put that in change if it's a great idea.
Sure.
But we think we're comfortable right now with the changes that we've suggested to the manager, and he's going to present those. It allows us to keep those services, like I said, for City Arts, for the 2 library branches. We're going to continue to keep Clapp Golf Course open.
Okay.
I know the park board recommended close it September 30th. We've decided that we want to keep that open while we work on a master plan for that park acreage.
Sure.
And what does the neighborhood want? What do they want to see in it? Will there still be a golf element or not? I mean, there could be a recommendation to come back with an 18-hole par 3 course.
Sure.
Or maybe just a 9-hole, or maybe no golf. But we're going to master plan it, figure out exactly what the needs are for that community, for that neighborhood, and keep it open until we have that final, until we figure out a way to pay for that master plan. We're going to continue to operation with the golf course as is. We're not going to close it September 30th.
Sure.
And that's important because we've heard loud and clear that there needs to be a golf element down there, and just what shape it takes going forward. We got to figure that out.
Sure.
So this budget takes all those things into account. We're able to hold off the major cuts by doing a couple other shifts, and we'll see if that works.
I still laugh that the city has 5 golf courses. I still chuckle at that. Oh, man. And not to mention all the private golf courses as well, but we have 5 golf courses by the city. That's crazy.
Yeah, we actually, at the time that we had 4 courses, we had more rounds played annually than we had with 5 courses.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, Maybe we've expanded it just a little too much then.
True, and golf itself has struggled in recent years with getting players back and getting people interested in it. There's been a lot of effort to get player development and get more people playing and the youngsters back on the course. But it's an expensive game. It's a game that takes a lot of time, and it's there's a lot of competition.
Sure,
Absolutely.
Nope. Bryan Frye, Wichita City Council member. No meeting again today, but it'll pick back up again next Tuesday. But it should be a fun one because the budget debate's going to be happening pretty quickly, and it's going to get, a little more heated, a little more tweaks on there.
Yeah, I think we'll have some passionate people next week for sure. I think we're going to present the changes first, and hopefully that will make people a little bit more accepting of the budget ideas.
Sure.
But we still want to hear from people. And again, if there's other ideas that we can come up with, different ways to grow revenue or different ways to operate more efficiently, that's really the bottom line, is trying to get government to operate more efficiently.
Exactly.
And we're not going to be able to get 100% cost recovery on everything we do. Surely not. But there's nothing wrong with doing it better.
Sure.
And trying to have more partnerships and more shared operations if we can.
Exactly.
Part of the best thing about the city arts is the education classes are usually booked solid, but yet we've got this gallery space that sits empty most of the time. And can we repurpose that and do some other things in that gallery space when there's not shows going on to be able to generate more revenue? Well, why not?
We could have a Democratic Socialist meeting there.
The book club,
right?
Yeah,
the book club. That's right. They can have their book club. So I love it. Bryan Frye, Wichita City Council member. Always a pleasure, my friend. Enjoy the non-meeting today, and we'll look forward to it again next Tuesday.
And no 3-pound hamburger today for me.
No 3-pound hamburger.
I think I'll have some cantaloupe and some salad and,
there you go.
Try to do fit stuff.
Well... What fun's that? Yeah, exactly. Got to take a break. 7 minutes past the hour to the top of the hour. Bryan, we'll talk to you again next Tuesday.
All right. Thank you, Andy.
Always fun. This is The Voice of Reason, wrapping up hour number 2 right here. Stay here.
The Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
Top of the hour news coming up in just a minute. Hour number 3 right around the corner. We got a lot more to get to. We'll talk about the Medicare cards and the changes on those for you. Also, we'll touch more on some of the elections coming up with the governor's race really getting heated in the state of Kansas. Kind of entertaining to watch some of that one as we are 1 week away from Election Day. Kind of exciting, isn't it? This is your show. Thanks again to Bryan Frye, Wichita City Council member. We'll continue these discussions with the city budget in the coming weeks. This is your show. It's time to speak up, speak out, speak loud, speak proud, speak the truth, and always speak some reason. Hour number 3 of The Voice of Reason coming up in just a minute. Don't go anywhere.
It's time for Reason.
They understand it's not going to happen right away. They understand, like they did during the FDR times, that you have to do it in a progression. So what do? You overcorrect. You create this movement of fringe socialist ideologues that are very crazy, that are very wild on the fringe. You make them look like crazies, and then you hold up an entire centrist movement, and you end up winning some Democratic seats.
This is The Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
Then I get on my knees and pray. We don't get fooled again. Don't get fooled again.
That's what I'm talking about. Welcome into The Voice of Reason, hour number 3 of The Voice of Reason, broadcasting live out of the heart of the nation here in Wichita, Kansas. On the Big Talker, 1480 on the AM side, 102.5 on the FM side, KQAM. Simulcasting on TV, KGPT TV, channel 2610. Good morning. Welcome aboard. Great to have you along today on a hashtag Patriotic Tuesday. Lots to get to. We're having a lot of fun today. Thanks again, Bryan, Frye, Wichita City Council member. We'll continue those discussions about the city budget. Yes, it's a hotly debated issue, a kind of a hot commodity to discuss right now. Plus, we'll get into some of the election time as we are 1 week away from Election Day. We do have a lot of candidates coming on over the next couple of days. Really looking forward to chatting with some of them. Actually, tomorrow we'll be joined by actually a judge candidate. We have about 3 judge candidates coming on the show. Not one of the elections that we've really focused a whole lot of attention and time on, and it's really important. The rule of law is kind of, one of the most important things that we can actually understand and abide by and actually have someone continue to advocate for. And it's unfortunate that we have to worry about what type of judge would get in to make decisions, even if it's little. You know, someone steals something and they go to court, or they have a speeding ticket and they go to court, and, we have judges who want to abide by the rule of law and others who want to abide by emotion, and they want to change the rule of law. And just by that fact, judicial activism, as you know, has become a bit of an issue in our society, even here in the state of Kansas with our Kansas Supreme Court. So we'll talk with some of the judge candidates over this week. We do have, I think that we are done. No, we're not done. We do have, I'm trying to get a couple more state legislators, House members running for elections, either incumbents or new candidates that are running for seats. We'll try and get them on the show. We're going to squeeze them in sometime within the next few days before the end, before Election Day. I am still working on the montage. We'll have the montages of all the candidates that we're having on the air that we'll have on the show. We'll play those. And really looking forward to that. Plus, I am working on as well a sheet for you to have that I'll post on social media within the next couple of days on endorsements from who Kansans for Life endorsed, the Second Amendment with the NRA and the KSRA, who they endorse, Americans for Prosperity, the Wichita Eagle. Even I will show those lists of endorsements, post them on social media as kind of a collage, so that way you have that information as well, because this stuff is really, really important. Maybe it's not important to you, but some people like to see who's being endorsed by whom and kind of what the momentum is with some of these candidates. So a lot to get to when it comes to election time. But right now, we sat down with a couple of days ago, Julie Burkhart. She's with Medicare. And as we've kind of teased with the AARP, and as you know, and you probably heard some of the news, but they are changing the Medicare cards. They're getting rid of the Social Security number on the card, and they are changing it up a little bit for personal identity and identity safety. Because we don't want people stealing your identification, and which seems to happen semi-frequently. So to talk about that and some of the new information coming out of Medicare, Julie Burkhart from Medicare was in studio with us just a couple of days ago, and this is what she had to say here on The Voice of Reason. Public Affairs Specialist with Medicare, Julie Burkhart, in studio. Good morning, Julie. How are you?
Good morning.
It's great to have you here. I appreciate you guys coming in. You're kind of doing a statewide tour right now.
Yes. We have mailings going on throughout the state of Kansas. Yeah.
Very good. We'll talk about big changes happening in Medicare. Talk about what's coming up and what can people anticipate coming up soon.
Yeah. So Medicare is finally removing the Social Security numbers off of the Medicare cards. They've always been on there. If some of you might remember, in the state of Kansas, as when I got my first driver's license, the Social Security number was on there. Mm-hmm. And we finally had people, complaining about that, and they finally took those off. Well, it's been like that since the implementation of Medicare in 1965, where the cards had Social Security numbers on them. So obviously, for obvious reasons, people do not want their Social Security number out there.
Sure.
It did actually take an act of legislation to get the numbers off, which happened a couple years ago. But it took some time because we have to convert a lot of our systems. People who submit claims to get paid by Medicare, all of those systems, different health insurance companies that contract with Medicare to provide Medicare benefits, all of those systems had to change in order to implement changing the numbers on the cards.
So a bit of a process to make that happen.
Yes.
Are there a lot of changes going on with Medicaid? I know, other than the healthcare side of it, the federal level when it comes to politics, but just the enrollment, the benefits of, and then with the card as well. Are we seeing some changes internally within Medicare?
No, really not a lot of changes. And we do want to emphasize, with this new card, it is not going to change your benefits at all. So that's the good news. However, some of you, and I'm glad you brought this up, do get your health care benefits through a Medicare Advantage plan, a plan that contracts with Medicare. So that could be like a Humana, Coventry. And this new card does not replace that card. If you get this card in the mail, you're going to want to keep both of those cards, and also your Social Security number. It does not replace your Social Security card. Some people have asked, can I throw my Social Security card away?
No, don't do that.
Do not do that. But you don't want to carry your Social Security number card, and you can carry the Medicare card, but keep in mind that that number relates to your benefits, and there are scams and fraudulent activity that happen.
Sure. It is always so scary, and you almost have that paranoia feeling of when you carry some of your documentation, some of your information with you, no matter where you may go, even if it's just a driver's license or, usually you don't want to carry your Social Security card with you. Usually you don't want to carry some of those, sometimes your healthcare card like that, but you want to be careful with that stuff.
Absolutely. And I'll tell you what, even so, we're taking these numbers off and replacing them with a uniquely generated number. It's going to be different for everyone. You're not going to share a card number with your spouse like some of you did with your Social Security number. But there's also scams that have happened with the mailing that's going out. We're mailing 60 million cards out nationwide.
Wow.
On a rolling basis, and 500,000 of those in Kansas. And so people have called people up and said, you have to pay to get the new Medicare card. You have to give me your Social Security number to get your new card. It's all fraudulent activity. We're not calling anyone about the cards. The cards are free.
Okay.
Another scam I want to mention is that we've even had some insurance agents calling and saying, if you make an appointment with me, maybe they're trying to sell Medigap insurance. Then I can get your card quicker. Sure. And it's the Medicare agency that's mailing the cards out. No one can get it to you quicker. Be patient. Any of those calls are wrong. They're fraudulent, and you need to report those. And you can report them to 1-800-MEDICARE.
Perfect. And it is good to know of those. Have they infiltrated Kansas? Do you know if they've actually happened in Kansas as well?
Yes, they've happened nationwide.
Really?
Absolutely.
All over the place. It is so scary because, we heard the same kind of thing during tax time with people calling from the IRS, quote unquote, saying, stay on the line or else we're going to come get you, and you need the money and you need to wire it to us right now, sort of thing. So now trying to take advantage of a nice change with what's happening with Medicare right now.
Yes, absolutely.
That's kind of troubling.
It is.
So when are we going to see the change on the card?
So the cards started mailing out in Kansas the beginning of July. Again, it's going to take a while to get them in the hands of everyone. So through end of July. Mm-hmm. And I would say wait until the second week of August. If you haven't gotten a card, it's probably, it's less likely that it's been stolen. It's more likely that it's been lost, or that your address on file with us is not up to date.
Sure.
And so you can then check on that card and call 1-800-MEDICARE to order a card. However, this is new for the first time for all Medicare beneficiaries. You can actually print your own card. Now, it's not an initial card. It's not a way to get your card quicker within this mailing process. It's to get a replacement card. And you can go to medicare.gov, G-O-V, and, let me backtrack, mymedicare.gov. And click on create an account. And it's a secure portal because you're going to create a user ID and password. And it's a way to get information from Medicare. You can track your claims that are being paid, see what you're going to owe on that bill. Wow. And it's your personal account with Medicare, but it's also, if the card has been mailed, the card is going to show up there so you can print a copy of it. So let's say your neighbor got their card, you might go in there, create an account, and check.
Okay.
If that card's there and you're tired of waiting on it to get in the mail, you can actually print it yourself.
How fun. How fun. Mm-hmm. So everything even going digital to where you can monitor all of that as well.
Absolutely. You can also download an app on a phone, the mymedicare.gov app, and you can actually show your card that way to your doctor, if they ask for it. But initially I'd bring the card in so that maybe they need to scan it to get it registered in their system.
Sure.
Yeah.
Now, for someone who may not be on Medicare yet, maybe transitioning, getting onto the program here in the next couple of months, by the end of the year or early next year sort of thing, if they begin the enrollment process soon, we'll talk about enrollment here in a little bit for open enrollment this fall, but if they're working towards that process, if they get signed up, they'll automatically just start off with that new card as well, correct?
Absolutely. So if they're new to Medicare, their birthday is past April 1st, then they're going to get the new card, and they'll never get a card with the Social Security number on it.
Okay.
For newly eligible beneficiaries, they always get their card 2 months before their 65th birthday when they're first eligible for Medicare. So those that had a birthday maybe in June, right? We started mailing out the new cards April 1st. So even in Kansas, some of those newly eligibles might have gotten their new card in April,
okay,
even before they begin mailing out to current beneficiaries.
Good.
In July.
Good. That's on top of it right there. So let's talk about the open enrollment. People may be doing that transition or just curious about the process, never gone through it before. Just like I'm guessing any type of like any other insurance program, that open enrollment is October, November-ish?
It is. So every year, October 15th through December 7th. So you have a good almost 2 months.
Okay.
We encourage Medicare beneficiaries to take advantage of this time. It's the one time a year that you can make changes to how you receive your Medicare. So you can be an original Medicare, but then there's also plans that contract with Medicare to offer what original Medicare offers, but plus may offer more. So like those Medicare Advantage plans, Humana, Coventry, Blue Cross Blue Shield, Aetna, all of those, they may offer more benefits than original Medicare. You might have to pay a separate premium for that.
Sure.
But there might be more benefits as well.
Open up a whole new world of opportunity there. So there's a lot of stuff to get to. If people want more information on Medicare, they're working on the enrollment, they're even curious just about the card, how can people contact you guys?
So we always say you can call 1-800-MEDICARE. It's 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And they can either help you with your question or they'll direct you to someone locally. So it is a nationwide toll-free number, but there's a program here in Kansas that helps people with enrollment in October every year, and they're a grantee program. And so they'll direct you to that Kansas program, and then you can even sit down with a volunteer, and they can help you enroll in October. So it could be close to home. You can do it over the phone. But they're 1-800-MEDICARE, which is 1-800-633-4227 if you don't want to find the letters on the dial of your phone or the touch pad of your phone. 1-800-633-4227.
Perfect. I love it. One more time, the change in the Medicare cards coming up. No Social Security number on those any longer. So when you get it and it looks a little different, that's why. But for the obviously security measures on there, it's always a good way to try and preserve someone's security the best we can.
Absolutely. And I'll say once you get the new card, destroy the old card, blacken it, take a magic marker, blacken out that number, even shred it if you can, and then begin using the other one right away so you can get it in the doctor system so they can pay claims on your behalf or submit claims on your behalf to be paid by Medicare with the correct number. And you can even laminate the new card as well.
Sure. So you mentioned a new number on there. So is it a different policy number, or is it just a number that refers to your policy number sort of thing? How is that working?
Okay. So they're uniquely generated numbers. No one's going to have the same number.
Okay.
And they're made up of letters and numbers.
Okay.
And you don't have to remember the number, but it does associate you with your eligibility.
Account. Okay.
As a Medicare beneficiary.
Okay. Very good. And one more time, in case anybody does get those pesky calls, because we know it's probably going to happen somewhere, what types of scams are floating around there as of right now?
Yeah. So people are calling and saying you have to pay to get the new card. That's false. The cards are free. They don't cost anything. Medicare is not going to call you. In fact, Medicare never picks up the phone and calls you for anything.
Sure.
They might return a call because you're asking about something. And then they might say you need to give me your Social Security number, which is on the card, to get your new card. We've also had people say we're going to cancel your health care benefits if you don't give us your card number, your old card number.
Sure.
And then we've had some insurance agents saying that we can get your card quicker to you if you make an appointment with me.
It's a scary deal. Hopefully nobody falls for some of those, so we can keep ahead of it and that sort of thing. One more time, the contact information for Medicare.
It's 1-800-633-4227.
Very good. Julie Burkhart, Public Affairs Specialist with Medicare. We appreciate you coming in studio. Good luck. Where else are you headed around the state to let people know about this?
Oh, so we've been to Topeka and Kansas City, Wichita. We're doing a lot of things over the phone as well. But, this is rolling out across the nation.
Sure.
So we have folks like me traveling all over to let people know.
All over the place.
Yeah.
I love it. Well, thanks for swinging by the studio. We really appreciate the information, and good luck with the tour.
Thank you so much.
There it is. That was Julie Burkhart with Medicare. She was in studio just a couple of days ago with their tour. We appreciate that very much on the information. We'll take a break. It's open line to you for the last little bit of the program. We'll shift gears back to election season when we come back. This is The Voice of Reason on KQAM.
This is The Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
27 minutes past the hour. Welcome back into The Voice of Reason. Great to have you along today as we are rocking and rolling, advancing conservatism on a daily basis. And it's great to have you along. 316-721-8255. Let's go ahead and sneak in a phone call here, shall we? Line number one. Good morning. What's your name?
Hi, Andy. This is Helen.
Good morning, Helen. How are you?
I'm doing just great. Prayerfully, you are too.
Absolutely.
By the grace of God. Well, this push for socialism, which is, anti-God and anti-Christian, socialism is, you want to replace God by let the government be your God, or
sure. Well, it's true. I mean, we see the study, and we've talked about it on the air before. We see the study that as government increases, people that actually are religious decrease because people think that they have the security that they need. They have that safety net. They feel comfortable. They don't need to look towards a quote unquote higher power for guidance or for leadership or for help in situations, because they look towards the government because the government's providing that for them. So you're right. As government increases, then religion decreases, and every study has shown that. So as we go towards socialism and we look towards people that need the safety net and people that need the $15 minimum wage or the guaranteed salary by the government or the free healthcare, whatever, then people feel comfortable and content. Again, not happy necessarily, but content, which means that they don't necessarily look towards any higher power for anything else because they feel they have everything they need.
Well, have you ever noticed that socialists are not ever content?
Well, that is true. They always want something more, and as soon as they get it, then it's not enough. So they call us evil and greedy because we're consumed with capitalism, where we always want to grow and expand and succeed and do well and gain more wealth and expand our business and do more stuff. They do the same thing, but it's with government instead of themselves, so that way they can get more of a redistribution, because it's never fair enough, right? Never fair enough.
Right.
Yeah.
They're very covetous. They want that which everything that their neighbor has.
Exactly. They want to take it away from them. So I agree. Helen, I appreciate it. We got to take a bottom of the hour break, but spot on that one. I mean, you're absolutely right. If you're religious, that should be something to be a little concerned about. If you see the 25,000 nationwide membership of the National Democratic Socialists in the country. Well done. But, as they grow, then you're right. I mean, they're less and less likely to be religious. It's just the way it is. Unless you want to live in an alternative universe, then you can believe whatever you want to, right? Bottom of the hour news coming up. More phone calls when we come back. It's open lines to you on a Tuesday. Stay here.
Wichita's fastest growing radio show. You're listening to The Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier on the Big Talker, KQAM.
That's the way we roll. If we ain't growing, then we're falling behind, and that's not the way that we like to roll right here on The Voice of Reason. Well, yes, we are the evil, terrible capitalists that are actually looking to expand, looking to grow. What would society be if we just were like, that's good. I'm just fine right here. If you ever do that, which, I mean, I guess if you hit the peak to where you're just like, I'm happy now, then awesome. I'm glad you found it. Society never, grew to become the greatest nation on the face of the earth by just saying, yeah, we're content now. Heck with that manifest destiny thing. We don't need to go that far that way. That's a lot of work. I could see that happening in today's time. So you're like, I don't know if we really want to do that. Really don't know if we want to go that far. 316-721-8255, 316-721-TALK. It is open lines to you for the last half hour of the program. We'd love to hear from you. So there was a debate, and I haven't covered much of this race, and I've actually had some people ask me about it because we have a lot of listeners up in the Hutch area, and that's not in Wichita, up north. And I know we focus 90% of the time in this area, South Central Kansas, within the Wichita and the surrounding area here, but we do cover we do cover up near Hutch as well, and we have a lot of listeners up there as well, and we appreciate that very much, and we love it. There are a lot of seats right now that are vulnerable to moderate-ish Republicans, if that's what you want to call them, moderate Republicans, with conservatives potentially taking them over in the primary. There's some really great potentials there. One of the seats, there was a debate last night from the seat for the 104th district for the north end of Hutchinson, and then up north from there with some of the rural communities, with current state representative Stephen Becker, who is a Republican from Buhler, but kind of on the moderate side. He's got a C rating with the NRA. He's voted for the tax increases. He's done some of these things. And there's a conservative challenging him, Paul Wagner. Or Wagoner, I don't know how he pronounces it specifically, but from Hutchinson. Now, they did a debate last night, and I have not followed this race specifically too terribly much, although we will reach out and try and get these individuals on before the primary day on Tuesday next week, because I think it'd be really good to try and bring some more awareness to that race. As you know, we've been focusing on some hotly contested races where there may be an upset. A very good opportunity to have some upsets of conservative primary challengers defeating moderate Republican incumbents. And this could be one of the seats. As I've been listening and as I've been talking to some of the individuals up in that campaign for that area, that it sounds like that Paul Wagner, the conservative that is running for the primary challenge, is done a lot of grassroots campaigning, done a lot of the door knocking, has been out knocking on the doors personally, whereas Stephen Becker has not done as much. And every single day, grassroots campaigning will win and triumph the day. Every time that you're talking to people physically out there, you will win the day. And it sounds like that's what's happening. But there was a debate last night, and it got a little heated, it sounds like, to whereas the conservative, Paul Wagner, was that some of the campaign tactics have been very much on the offense and have been going on the attack to some degree of Stephen Becker. One of the mailers, apparently, that went out to the individuals in the district that Becker was a little upset about said, "Hey, kids, let's go on a rhino hunt. Send us the address of your liberal neighbor who has put up a Becker sign, and we'll check the voters list to see if you've spotted a prairie rhino." All right, so now he said that was very distasteful and that's creepy, and Becker kind of went on the attack with him last night with that. But I find that kind of entertaining. I've noticed that with kind of going around the districts around here in the Wichita area myself as well, is that there are some places to where there are many registered Democrats with Republican yard signs, maybe the incumbent Republican or a moderate Republican with the Republican yard signs in their yard as a Democrat, which if they do, that's all. I'm not knocking that in any way, shape, or form, but that may show just a little bit the ideology of that Republican with an individual of even many liberals or far left Democrats or ideologically on the other side of the aisle that are supporting that Republican because they're maybe easier to work with. They like to work across the aisle. Maybe they don't vote with the most traditional Republican values. As you know, the Freedom Index score that we've talked about many times before for the state and our legislators, that out of the bottom 8 of them, 6 of them are Republicans, meaning having the worst Freedom Index score out of anybody in the state legislature as Republicans, voting to repeal gun laws, voting to raise your taxes, voting to spend more money. Those are things that historically and fundamentally Republicans do not value because that is against our platform as a Republican Party. And yet we have Republican members that are advocating for those types of mentalities, which would explain why many Democrats may put those signs. And again, I mean, we don't want the complete divisiveness of you go on that side, you go on this side, and you're not allowed to do that. I mean, all the power to you. But at the same time, what does that say about the candidate as opposed to the voter? We got to look at it both ways here. I mean, the voter, yeah, you know what? They may respect the person, they may like them, they may whatever. But if they're on the other side of the aisle as an extreme fringe ideological left-wing progressive, and they're supporting a quote-unquote Republican that may either say one of two things. Either the voter likes conservative values and they just don't realize it, or that the candidate isn't the most Republican in the terms of republicanism of the platform of the Republican Party. So I find it kind of interesting. Hey, kids, let's go on a rhino hunt. You could do it in the nice crocodile hunter, too. Hey, kids, let's go on a rhino hunt. Send us the address of your liberal neighbor and we'll with the yard sign, and we'll check to see, meaning we'll check and see if they're a registered Republican or a registered Democrat. If they're a registered Democrat, then, you've spotted yourself a prairie rhino here. It's kind of interesting. That's a great tactic. It's a great campaign tactic. I think it's very clever. Well done. Now, he wasn't very happy about that, obviously. Stephen Becker, being the incumbent there, saying, dude, that's creepy. As a professional, I don't know if I'd use the word dude, but dude, come on, dude. The state of Kansas deserves better than that, according to Becker. You deserve better than that, according to him. The Young Professionals of Reno County sponsored the forum as of Monday last night. The forum gave candidates 3 minutes to answer each question, longer than typical, with the hope the candidates would delve deeper into the issues. However, they were not allowed to respond to an attack. So each one of the candidates kind of went on the attack at the end of each time that they had to speak. Paul Wagner criticized Becker for voting with Democrats, and the fact that he has no campaign website and his platform is nowhere to be found. I've literally walked the entire district, according to Wagner. Steve Hu, he continues on. The Becker-Wagner forum ran nearly for an hour. Stage continued to be the event and continued after the event was far over. Becker said during the forum that Wagner ridiculed him in a Facebook post that embracing, accepting, and inclusion. I don't know what that means, but okay. So they kind of did their little spat back and forth. When you're trying to, number one, and here's a little inside ball for those that may not be involved in politics or may not have been involved in campaigns before. When you're trying to DC an incumbent, number one, it's very difficult because people love name recognition. And if they recognize the name on there, they really don't care what their voting record is. If they're not necessarily involved in politics too terribly much, they see the name, they remember the name, they recognize the name, and therefore they go and vote for the name. Why do you think there are, drive around town right now and see how many yard signs that you're actually going to see for somebody? Just see how many yard signs are out and about, either in people's personal yards or in the right-of-ways and public spaces, because it's the name recognition. It's that repetition. When you go into the voting booth and you look at the names, that name's going to pop up. Oh, yeah, okay. What was their policy or their platform? I don't know. I recognize the name, though. And a lot of people do that. So it's the name recognition. There are a few ways to win a campaign, especially as a challenger for a primary. Number one is knocking on the doors and being the one, not having your team go out and say, hey, vote for so-and-so, but saying, hey, I am so-and-so and I'm looking to win your vote. What are the issues that bother you and affect you? How can I win your vote over? And you do that. There is a big difference between right-of-way signs and signs in private properties. And you can notice that. Drive around and look at the difference between some of the yard signs for different candidates for a competing race, maybe for a House race or a county commission or for a judge race or something, and notice the difference between the ones that are in right-of-way spaces and ones that are in people's property. If they're in people's property, that means that the candidate actually went and talked to them personally, and they liked that person, and they put it out in their yard to support that individual. If it's the right-of-way, then it's just random people that went out and stuck it out there because they support them and just want other people to see that sign. There's a lot of internal baseball with tactics of campaigning. It's a lot of fun to watch, and it's really entertaining to see, but you got to step up your game when you're the primary challenger looking to dethrone an incumbent. And I don't know how long that Stephen Becker's been there, but this is one of the few opportunities as well to where we could see a change in tide going more conservative, going more with the traditional Republicanism. Just imagine if we ended up winning, let's say, 10 seats in the House, going from not just Democrat to Republican, which we have an opportunity to do that as well, but going from moderate Republican to conservative Republican. Imagine what 10 more seats would look like. We were on the brink of passing a few things in this last session to where we were 5 votes away, 10 votes away, and we couldn't do it. If, God forbid, we end up getting a Democrat into the governorship and we have to override some vetoes to lower sales tax or lower income tax or to lower some government spending, we need a veto-proof majority which is very difficult to get, 10 more conservative votes without Republicans, moderate Republicans that are voting the other way, could make or break this election. That's how important this primary election is in a week from today. That's how detrimental this could be. This could be the make or break with many pieces of important legislation. A constitutional amendment, lowering sales tax, capping government spending, putting the Supreme Court in their place, preserving the Second Amendment. Depending on what happens with the governorship, the House can be the make or break right now. And we could do a lot of potentially good, but we could also go the other direction and maintain some of these moderates, quote unquote, however you want to call it, moderates, middle of the road, fluffs, I don't know, whatever, rhinos, it doesn't matter. If they stay in, then we're not going to see a whole lot of change. And we have the opportunity to really make a big difference with that right now. 316-721-8255. We'll get your thoughts on this race and more. Let's go to the phones. Line number 1. Good morning. What's your name?
Morning, brother. It's Joe.
Joe, what's happening, sir?
Oh, not much.
Hey, do you want to go rhino hunting?
Dude,
what do you
I
say?
love that. I think it is hilarious. That is actually what should have happened because John McCain would have been gone years ago. And that should, seriously, he is my number one rhino target. He is the one man that I cannot, God bless him for serving in our service. I have no qualms about that. But what he has done as a public servant since then has been hugely distasteful. He has done so many things backwards. I was also going to say there was a police chief in a little town north of Wichita. I won't name the town, BC, but that ran on the Republican ticket. But everybody knew that he was a Democrat. He said, and as a matter of fact, I ended up talking to a lady that talked to him about it. She goes, "Aren't you a registered Democrat?" And he goes, "Yeah, but you can't win in this state if you're a Democrat. You have to be a Republican."
Sure. They openly admit it. I mean, if you remember the last election, there were pins that people were wearing saying, "I'm a proud rhino," because they know they can promote Democrat values and liberal policies with a Republican name, with the R in front of their name, because they know it's easier to get elected as a Republican.
Isn't that sad, though? I mean, you can't run your own party because, you're going to get called out.
Well,
so
and that's why I think the Republican Party in the state needs to be put, which they're starting to work on that. They've tightened up on their mission statement and their platform for the state Republican Party. They're talking about putting in a litmus test to where they're not really held accountable to it, but at least it's made public to where if they fill out the litmus test and they say, "I'm Republican, I support lower taxes, limited government, yada, 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 yada," and they put that publicly, then either they're held to that based on their votes or they vote the other way, and then we can expose them for going against Republican values. And we need to start holding our party accountable for what we believe in. Right now, I like the idea of a large Republican umbrella, but sometimes the umbrella may be a little bit too big to where we're going against the values of what we're actually trying to promote as a Republican and why you and I actually register as a Republican.
Right. Exactly. But then again, if they do this litmus test, right, and they say, "Hey, this is what we're going to do," yada, 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 great, I get all that. Then they get in office and do completely the opposite. Then we should do like the voters did in Colorado, where they pulled in 4 or 5 people out of office and had to replace them because they didn't stand for the Second Amendment. They didn't stand for all these things that they told their people that they would stand for, and they were just the opposite. So I think that the people of Kansas, ought to grow a set and pull these people out that don't do their job. I have no problem signing up and trying to remove somebody from office that will not do what they said that they were going to do.
Sure.
That's why, we need that commitment from them early on to know this is what I believe in, this is what I'm going to support, and this is what, I'm going to do for you, the people.
Exactly.
And when they don't, they should be thrown out of office.
What do you think? We should maybe start a movement, another rally to where we all dress up like Steve Irwin and we go rhino hunting.
Or Steve Urkel, either one. I mean,
one or the other. Yeah, that's right. I mean, Steve Irwin, the whole Stingray thing didn't work out too well. Yeah. So, hey, but we could dress up, we could go rhino hunting and then blimey, mate, look at what's coming out of the back end of that guy.
God, I love it. Oh,
there you are.
This is why people listen to you, man. You just crack me up. It's a beautiful morning right there listening to Andy Hoosier do Steve.
There we are. Hey, it's Steve Irwin. Yes, as long as he doesn't wrap a snake around him, then I'm all right.
Yeah, no joke. Yeah. But anyway, you're on the right track here. I think that these are some things that definitely need to be hit on. So, maybe we do need to get a little little rhino hunt thing going and see what happens.
See, there we go. We're going to go the Voice of Reno's Voice of Reason's Kansas State Tour rhino hunting lessons. That's what we're going to do now. That's
there you go.
That's going to be the new move. I love it. Joe, appreciate the phone call, my friend, very much so. We're going to go rhino hunting here real quick. So just imagine if we could get 10 more seats on the conservative side that join up in the Truth Caucus, that actually sign up for that mentality of conservatism, traditional Republicanism. Imagine what we could do in this state. Imagine imagine what we could do to actually advance an agenda and stop the other side, because right now they have control of it, and we need some work. We have some work to do. We can do it. We're going to do our rhino hunting tour throughout the state of Kansas. I'm sure we'll find some, and yeah, it'll be kind of a fun tour. What do you say? This is The Voice of Reason. One more break, wrapping up the show today on a Tuesday.
You're listening to The Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
Mate, look at that rhino coming out of that there gutter. Oh man, look at the BS coming out of that guy.
Looks like he ate a little too many raisins last night.
Oh my goodness, there it is. We're gonna go. It is gonna be the new Voice of Reason Kansas State tour of rhino hunting. By the way, this is the Crocodile Hunter theme song.
All these phony Republican rhinos.
Oh man, I tell you what, it's going to be a great time. What do you think? I mean, we could make this happen.
Oh, there's no doubt about it, mate. There's no doubt about it. I might even throw in a little koala bear once in a while.
See, it's Steve Irwin from the grave here.
You know, Crocky, mate. I just love me and Bindi go out there and find the fake Republicans and shoot him right between the eyes.
I think that there's no classification of endangered species of Kansas rhino. What do you think?
I totally agree with you on that, mate. Totally agree with you on that. And I'm disguising my voice so bad so they don't realize who I am.
That's right. Blimey, there you are. Appreciate that. Yeah, I guess we're finished up on the show already. We will have to go through more of the Kansas State rhino tour in the next couple of days going into election time.
We have to weed them out and take them one at a time and put them back in their cages.
See, that's what I'm talking about.
Don't feed the animals.
Don't feed the animals. I like it. This is your show. Time to speak up, speak out, speak loud, speak proud, speak the truth, and always speak some reason. This is The Voice of Reason on a Tuesday. Everybody have a great day.